Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are getting into something that sounds simple but catches a massive number of transitioning drivers entirely off guard: open deck cargo securement. Specifically, we're looking at a standard being rolled out by the team at Synchron Safety called the 358 strategy. It's an innovative, foolproof system meticulously engineered to keep trucks compliant and, most importantly, keep our highways safe. To get a full grasp of this, we'll quickly break down the open deck problem, review federal spacing rules, unpack the 358 strategy, highlight 3 critical blind spots, and finish up with the photo audit. Section 1, the open deck problem. So this is a massive issue right now. A lot of drivers are making the transition from dry vans over to step decks or flatbeds. Now, in a dry van, it's mostly a set it and forget it operation, right? You load it, close the doors, and you're good. But on an open deck, they really don't know the specific rules for the distance between straps. And getting it wrong isn't just some minor oops. A 15-foot gap between straps creates a dangerous void in downward pressure, meaning the cargo isn't firmly immobilized. That right there is a guaranteed DOT violation, making the load totally non-compliant and seriously unsafe. Moving to Section 2, Federal Strap Spacing Rules. Let's look at what the federal law actually requires. The DOT dictates a very strict baseline. Your first strap absolutely needs to be within the first 4 feet of the cargo. The second strap has to be within the first 10 feet. And from there, you absolutely cannot have a gap of more than 10 feet between any of your straps, ever. Section 3, the 358 strategy. Which brings us to the Synchron Safety solution. To make these regulations completely monkey-proof for their fleet, they engineered a strategy that is actually more conservative than the federal minimum. I love how foolproof this is. Here is the rhythm. Strap number 1 goes at 3 feet from the front edge. Why 3 feet? Because the law says within 4. By placing it at 3, you just built in a guaranteed safety margin. Then, strap number 2 goes 5 feet after the first one. That puts your second strap right at the 8-foot mark, firmly locking down the front and easily satisfying that rule requiring 2 straps in the first 10 feet. After that, it's all about the 8-foot rhythm. You just keep dropping a strap every 8 feet until you run out of cargo. 16 feet, 24 feet, 32 feet, and so on. Because you are spacing them at 8 feet, you will never accidentally trigger that 10-foot gap violation. But wait, you might be wondering, what happens if you get to your last strap and you still have a gap of 5 feet or more before the actual end of the cargo? Well, there's a catch at the end, literally called the tail catch. If you have 5 feet or more of unsecured cargo left at the end, you simply throw one final strap near the tail to secure that last fraction. It perfectly caps off the rhythm and takes the guesswork completely out of the equation. Section 4, 3 major blind spots. As brilliant as the 358 strategy is, Synchron Safety highlights 3 major blind spots that perfect spacing doesn't magically fix. You see, length is only half the battle. First up is the weight blind spot. The aggregate working load limit, the total strength of all your tie-downs combined, has to equal at least 50% of the weight of the cargo. So if your load is 40,000 pounds, your combined strap ratings must hit at least 20,000 pounds. You could have perfect 8-foot spacing, but if your straps are too weak, you're out of service. The second blind spot is the bulkhead exception. Technically, the rule for a strap in the first 4 feet isn't necessary if the trailer has a front-end structure blocking the cargo, like a Conestoga wall. But most flatbeds don't have that. So Synchron recommends using the 4-foot rule regardless, just to be totally safe and consistent. Finally, specialized commodities. The 358 rule is fantastic for general cargo. But if you are hauling things like steel coils, you need specific cradles and X-pattern strapping. Logs, lumber, heavy machinery. They all have their own strict, unique rule books under federal law. Section 5, the photo audit. Which brings it all back to the dispatchers. Because open deck safety is absolutely a team effort, Synchron Safety mandates a photo audit. Before a truck even moves an inch, the dispatcher needs a side profile picture from the driver. They're doing a visual pre-trip audit looking for 3 things. Is there a strap in the first few feet? Does the total strap count actually make sense for the length of the load? And are there any visual gaps that look wider than 10 feet? Because at the end of the day, as Synchron says, if the math doesn't add up, the truck doesn't move. It's a great rule to live by. Safety isn't just about good intentions, it's a strict mathematical equation that we all have to balance before hitting the highway. So, the next time you look at a flatbed rolling down the interstate, ask yourself, does their math add up? Thanks for diving into open deck safety with us on this explainer, and we'll see you on the next one.